such. Good afternoon, Chair Reardon, Vice Chair Alonzo Leon, and Vice Chair Wisnett, members of the committee. First of all, thank you for your service to the state of Oregon. Much appreciated. I'm Tom Insko. I'm the president of Eastern Oregon University. And briefly, for those of you that I've not met, I am a native Eastern Oregonian, born and raised on a farm outside of Grande. I'm a graduate of Eastern Oregon University and worked for a wood products company, Boise Cascade, for approximately 20 years, where the majority of my residency was in Northeast Oregon as well, while working for that company, prior to making the switch to serve as president in July of 2015. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to share with you why House Bill 4153, the designation of Eastern Oregon University as Oregon's rural university, is an important action you can take. I want to hit on three things given the short amount of time. One, why is EOU distinctively rural relative to other institutions in the state? I'd like to focus on how this supports the ability for EOU to access additional funding sources going forward and in the future. And finally, how this will enhance our relevance relative to our long-term strategy, which is very much based on embracing our rural roots as an institution. So how are we uniquely rural? Chair Reardon, you visited us last fall. Appreciate you coming out and visiting our beautiful campus and getting to know our students. I want to provide a little context in terms of how place impacts an institution. EOU is located in Grande, Oregon. It is 250 miles to a town in the state of Oregon that has more than 20,000 people in it. Gresham is the closest city to Grande that has more than 20,000 people. If you go across state borders, you can get to one within 120 miles. I would suggest that really changes the dynamics of how we deliver education and access to higher education out in rural Oregon, given how sparsely populated it is. But we have tremendous relationships with communities all over Eastern Oregon and beyond because of how we do serve students from a distance. We also have a high proportion, the highest proportion of Pell-eligible students relative to the other institutions in the state. That's partly due to the challenges rural Oregon has had in the past number of decades. I want to also provide context of the connectivity of EOU to our communities that I think is a bit distinct because of our rural location. I'll use Grant County as the example. The school district in Grant County, 56% of the teachers and staff are EOU alum. Humboldt Elementary School, which is in Grant, 70% of their teachers and staff are EOU alum. So these roots go very deep with our community partners out there. We take those relationships seriously. But if you look even beyond that, we serve students from rural places across the state as well. 77% of our Oregon students are from a zip code designated as rural or frontier, according to the classification used by Oregon Rural Health. And finally, I'd just highlight that EOU has 11 centers distributed across rural Oregon, running from Ontario to Burns to Roseburg, where we really have a distinct mission of meeting students where they are, often adult students in these rural communities. So I'd like to switch to the additional revenue possibilities. We're really looking to position EOU to be a catalyst for positive advancement of rural communities. And we see designation as Oregon's Rural University better positioning us to seek federal grant funding focused on addressing these challenges that rural communities face. And then from a strategic standpoint, EOU just completed a strategic plan where one of our 6 goals states EOU serves as the educational, economic, and cultural engine for rural places. So we're committed to really focusing on creating change in challenging areas of the state. And we already have programs in place such as educational partnerships, such as Eastern Promise, our Oregon Teacher Pathway that is growing significantly, where we're really developing the next generation of educators that understand how to be more culturally responsive to the changing demographics of that region. We have dual enrollment agreements with community colleges and fast-track partnerships with regional community colleges that provide access on a efficient 2+2 model. We have deep and long-standing partnerships with OHSU and OSU on our campus in Grande, where we provide rural students the opportunity to go into the nursing field as well as access to the excellent ag programs that OSU has to offer. And finally, we're really pushing into the development of a rural Engagement and Vitality Center, the REV Center, that is focused on promoting rural prosperity and revitalization by connecting our institutions to the needs of these communities. So in closing, designating EOU as Oregon's Rural University acknowledges the unique characteristics of our institution. It recognizes EOU's role as an institution of access and opportunity, especially for students from low population density areas. It provides a meaningful mechanism to potentially secure additional funding support for rural initiatives, and it assists EOU in advancing our mission and strategy to serve as the educational, economic, and cultural engine for rural places. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, my name is Oregon State Representative Greg Smith, and I have the distinct pleasure of representing Umatilla County, Morrow County, Gillum County, Sherman County, and the very, very best parts of Wasco County. And I'm pleased to be here today to support House Bill 4153. Let me share with you very quickly. During my time as a state representative, I've actually served with 7 presidents from Eastern Oregon University. And I am so pleased to be sitting next to President Insko. He's a man of great capacity and high capability. And we're so blessed in rural Oregon and in the state of Oregon to have him in his position. I want to just very, very briefly share a story with you. I'm a graduate of Barlow High School, Gresham, Oregon. And my first year out of high school, I went to Portland State University, and I loved it. Portland State University was a fine institution. I had a chance to learn a lot, get fundamental classes taught to me. One of the things, though, that I'll never forget is one of my instructors shared with me that make sure you get a liberal arts education. Be able to think, be able to see things from a broad perspective. And so I took that seriously, and I started asking myself, how am I going to do that? And I took a look at transferring to another institution. Again, I was having a blast at Portland State. Enjoyed it. Loved living in downtown Portland. But I wanted to broaden my perspective. And so I went and looked at Western Oregon University, and it was a fine university. I went and looked at Southern. It was excellent. But I knew in order for me to continue to broaden my perspective, my horizon, I needed something even a little more. And so I literally loaded up my 1987 Mazda pickup with a canopy on it with everything I had. And in the middle of a winter storm in December, I drove to La Grande, Oregon. And while I had family there, I'd been there in the summer. I'd never been there in the winter. And, let me share with you, there's a lot of snow in La Grande in the winter. And I spent the next 3 or 4 years working on a liberal studies degree where I learned philosophy and economics and political science. I learned how to write. Eastern Oregon University was a writing university at that time, and in order to graduate, you had to pass an exam where a subject was given to you, and you had a couple hours to write, and I learned how to do that. But most importantly, I really believed I learned how to have a broad perspective and to appreciate all mankind and all perspectives. And while I struggle sometimes to exhibit that, I want you to know that's what I was instructed. Now, why did I go to EOU? Because I wanted that rural experience. And I would share with you that Eastern Oregon University provides that experience. And by us designating EOU as Oregon's rural university, I think we're going to be able to provide that opportunity to many, many more students. I want to share with you in my district, House District 57, I represent folks in Dufur, in Rufus, in Biggs, a little town called Lexington, McNary. And those folks, they view EOU as their university. And so I'd hope you would understand that rich history and that rich culture that EOU provides to many, many of our youth and adults. Last thing I would share with you, and this just comes from a pure business perspective, If you're in Idaho, if you're in Montana, if you're in rural parts of eastern Washington, and you're looking to go out of state to school, many of them want to find a like location to attend. And by us being able to share that Eastern Oregon University is Oregon's rural university, it's going to serve as a magnet to those students. And so, Chair Reardon, I definitely appreciate your time. Thank you for your consideration, and I would ask for all of your support on House Bill 4153. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for your testimony and your story. I think Barlow is pretty rural, but okay.
Yes, sir.
Representative Findley, welcome to our committee and welcome to the Capitol.
Thank you, Chair Reardon, Vice Chair Winslet, Vice Chair Alonso Leon. My name is Lynn Findley. I represent House District 60, and it's an honor to be here. I met with the president this morning, and we had a conversation. EOU is District 60's university. I mean, I represent Harney, Lake, Malheur, Baker County, and Grande. All of those cities, with the exception of Lakeview, which is not in my district, has an EOU facility. They service all of the residents of District 60. When we spoke this morning, I learned about the opportunities for the rural designation, and we darn sure are a rural county, and they darn sure meet our needs. So it was an honor to have the opportunity to come and support this designation and support that, because I see many people from every walks of my district's life are affected by this university. It's a great honor to have it here, and it's a great tool for us to rely on. So I also urge your support for this bill as well. Thank you.